Class, our next topic is human beings. Class, the voice of human being is also a sound, so how we produce that voice? So, we human beings produce sound when our vocal cords vibrate on blowing air through them by our lungs. So class, this is the structure of our voice box or larynx. So let's see what is the functioning of that larynx. Our throat has a larynx. The voice is produced in the larynx. Larynx is also called the voice box. So class, this is the larynx and this is known as voice box, and this larynx is situated between pharynx and trachea. So between pharynx and trachea there is a larynx which is known as voice box. So we are talking about this larynx in this time. It is designed to produce voice. It is a box-like structure with walls of tough tissues. It's very important class. It is made up of tissues. Inside two folds of tissues there is a gap. So you can see here there are so many small tissues are there, and there is a very big gap between them. So class, in larynx our tissues are in this form and there is a gap between these tissues, and when we breathe the air can easily pass through these tissues and there is no vibration. But when we want to speak at that time, they are contracting like this, and the air which is passed between two tissues, they create a sound, and that sound is our voice. So class, in voice box or in larynx we can speak just because of these tissues, and when these tissues contract at that time we can speak, and when we breathe at that time they are in the relaxed position, so there is no voice or there is no sound when we breathe. But when we want to speak, our tissues contracts and they create a sound. So class, when we breathe the vocal cords become loose and the gap between them increases. So when we take breath, at that time the air comes from lungs, they create a gap between all the tissues, so the gap between tissues are increasing. When we talk, shout or sing, the cords become tight and hence they vibrate and produce sound. As I told you earlier, when we create any kind of sound, at that time they are close to each other and the air which comes from those tissues, they create sound. And class, the frequency of sound sometimes changes. That's why class, when you speak your voice is different, when you screaming your voice is different. So it all depends on the structure of tissues at that particular time. So this is how we speak and this is how we produce sound through our larynx, or we can say voice box. So class, we can feel the vibrations of vocal cords when we reciting or speaking if we put our fingers in our throat. And there is an important note, some animals like birds, frogs, etc. are also produce sound due to the vibrations of their vocal cords, but bees do not have voice boxes. They make sound by moving their wings up and down very fast. So it's important class, bees don't have any kind of voice box. Class, our next topic is sound needs a medium for propagation. It means without medium sound cannot travel. So sound cannot travel through a vacuum, and you all know class, in vacuum there is no air, there is no medium. So sound requires a medium for its propagation. for traveling from one point to another. The following simple experiment demonstrates this fact. So class, in this experiment you can see this is a battery, this is your electric bell, and this electric bell is inside this jar, and this is airtight jar, and this electric bell is connected with this battery. So class, if we take all the air inside from this jar, so there is a vacuum. If we on this switch, then with the help of this battery, this electric bell will ring. But class, it's very important, the sound produced by this electric bell cannot be heard by us, because the sound which create inside this jar is not come outside, because it's a vacuum inside the jar, and the sound need medium, any kind of medium, either it's solid, gas or liquid or any kind of medium, but sound need medium. And if there is a vacuum, there is no medium, so we are not able to hear the sound of this electric bell. So class, now this activity where we can see that sound travel in solid. So with the help of this activity you can easily understand how sound can travel in solid. Class, sound can travel in all the mediums, solid, liquid and gas. This can be demonstrated by the very simple activity. Now class, this is the activity. In this time, if this clock is very near to this boy's ear, at that time he can hear the sound. And class, in second figure, if you take that clock far from this boy, that he is not able to hear the sound of this clock now. So this boy is not able to hear the sound of the clock. So the clock is so far from him. It means through air the sound cannot reach the air. So through air this sound cannot reach till this point. So he is not able to hear the sound of that clock. So class, in third figure you can see he just touch this clock with this iron scale, and with the help of this iron scale the sound can travel through this solid medium, and the boy can hear the sound of this clock. So what is the meaning of that class? Here the medium is air, so this boy can hear the sound of clock. But here in this time in air the sound cannot reach till this point, so he is not able to hear the sound. But in third one he used the iron scale, and with the help of that sound can travel through this solid medium, and he can hear again the sound of this clock. So what do you understand by this activity class? Sound can only travel through the medium. This is also one more example class that sound travel in solid. You can see, and you can do this in your home also. If you take two cups and just join them with the help of this thread, and if you lose the thread, then you are not able to hear the voice of each other, because sound need that kind of proper solid where the sound can travel properly. If a person speaks in the first cup, then the other person can hear his sound very easily through the medium. So this medium is solid, so it means we can say sound can travel through solids. Next is to show that sound travel in liquid. Thus, with the help of this example we can show you. In this time there is a balloon, and he is picking his watch in the other side of this balloon, and he is taking that balloon in very near to his ear. So class, the tick tick sound of this clock can hear by this person, because sound can travel through this liquid. That's why he is able to hear the sound of this clock. So what is the meaning of that? Sound can travel through liquid. So next activity is to show that sound travel in air. So in our daily life, in our surroundings, we hear so many kind of sounds. Those sounds are normally comes by the air. So it means the air is a medium through which we can hear the sound of our surroundings.